In the heart of Philippine folklore lies a creature passed down through whispers, the Aswang. She's the monster they warned us about, a shapeshifter who preys on the innocent, who slips through open windows and hides behind familiar faces. But in Aswang 1992, she's more than just a bedtime threat. She is real. She walks, she kills, and she becomes a mirror for everything the town fears but refuses to confront. Directed by Peke Galiaga and Lori Reyes, this cult horror film doesn't just deliver scares. It resurrects the old fears buried in bloodlines, forgotten rituals, and a community too disconnected from its fate to notice the monster in their midst. In this essay, we'll explore how Aswang turns superstition into survival horror, and how it uses its folklore roots to trap its characters in a slow-burning nightmare where belief, betrayal, and blood all flow from the same wound. Let me tell you the story. Aswang opens with a violent tragedy. The young girl Kathleen is orphaned after her family is gruesomely murdered. With nowhere else to go, Kathleen travels to a remote province with her loyal yaya, Peron, and their family driver, Dudoy. The town they visit is Dudoy's hometown, and it carries its own grim secret, one that stirs only at night. A local legend looms over the town, and Aswang roams the area, feeding on the vulnerable. Some say the terror began when the townsfolk stopped going to the capilla, a warning left unanswered. Tudoy, shaken by memory, reveals that he once encountered the Aswang himself. The frightening part? She hasn't aged a day since. One evening, while Veron is distracted on the phone, Kathleen wanders off, drawn by curiosity or something darker. Veron's search leads her into the woods, where she gets lost and has her first terrifying encounter with the Aswang. She stumbles upon an abandoned hut and is attacked, only to be saved in the nick of time by a mysterious young man named Edgar. Meanwhile, the Aswang strikes again, this time targeting Rosita, a pregnant woman from the village. But her hunt is interrupted by two patrolling policemen who wounded her, forcing her to retreat. In this moment, we witness the creature's eerie ability to heal, slowly, painfully, and grotesquely. The attack convinces Dudoy to take action. Veron, determined to protect Kathleen, heads to the police station and meets Dr. Abraham, a researcher obsessed with Aswang lore. He teaches her how to fight the creature, with salt, garlic, and other ancient methods. At the station, a chilling coincidence unfolds. Kathleen's parents' killers are also there, catered by the authorities. Dudoy tracks down the Aswang's forest lair but finds it empty. What he doesn't know is that the creature has already infiltrated their world, hiding in plain sight as a stray cat that Kathleen innocently adopts. Back at the hut, Dudoy arms himself with salt and garlic, but before the creature returns, the human killers arrive and murdered him. Later, the wounded Aswang returns to the hut and finishes Dudoy off. Kathleen, searching for him, meets Edgar in the woods, who delivers the devastating news of Dudoy's death. With danger closing in, Kathleen fortifies their house with traps, a surprisingly childlike but resourceful defense setup. Killers arrive at the house first, only to find they're not alone. The Aswang reveals itself, now in serpent form, and turns on the killers one by one. Blood is spilled, but the creature is left weakened. Kathleen and Veron now know what they must do. End it, once and for all. They return to the Aswang's hut, prepared to strike. But the creature, clever and manipulative, attempts to gain sympathy, taking the form of a child and even impersonating Kathleen's dead mother. Kathleen almost falls for it. But when Veron is injured in the struggle and the Aswang mimics her form too, Kathleen proves her bond with the real Veron and unmasks the imposter. They survive the night. As dawn breaks, the sunlight finally does what the weapons couldn't. The Aswang, caught in the rising light, burns. Edgar and Kathleen's father arrive just in time to rescue them. Kathleen and Veron have lived through something mythic, something monstrous, not just a brush with folklore, but a battle against the shadow that lives in belief, silence, and blood. There's a line in the film that lingers. No one goes to church, no one prays anymore. That's why the monsters returned. This is not just superstition, it's a warning. In Aswang, the creature is not just a beast lurking in the woods. She's a symptom of something much deeper. The film isn't about an Aswang invading a peaceful town. It's about a town so spiritually hollow, so lost in forgetfulness that the Aswang didn't need to invade. She was invited. In most horror films, myths are treated like spooky bedtime stories, but not here. In Aswang, folklore is how you stay alive. Veron doesn't survive by accident. She learns, she listens, she studies. Salt, garlic, the weakness of stairways, these aren't old wives' tales, they're rules. Ancient tools were passed down from a time when monsters weren't metaphors, they were neighbors. When the police can't help you and science can't explain what's really haunting you, folklore is all that's left. The Aswang doesn't hide behind shadows or masks. She wears the face of someone you trust. A kind woman, a pet, a grieving mother. She isn't just a shapeshifter. She's a manipulator of instincts. Her horror lies not in her teeth or claws, but in how easily she can blend into the roles we associate with safety. So when Kathleen sees her own mother's face on the monster that murdered her family, you're not watching a supernatural horror anymore. You're watching a child being forced to choose between memory and survival. The town doesn't go to church anymore. They've stopped praying, they've stopped believing, and that emptiness, that silence is where the Aswang thrives. She is not just a creature of hunger, she's a creature of neglect, a punishment for forgetting the rituals. And in a place where the community has crumbled and everyone is left to fend for themselves, she doesn't have to hunt. She just waits. At the heart of the story is Kathleen, a child who has every reason to give up. She's seen her parents murdered. She's dragged into a town where evil takes on many forms, and yet she chooses to fight. She prepares traps, she learns how to kill, and when evil comes into her home, both the human and the inhuman, she stands her ground. This isn't just a final girl moment. This is a child taking back control in a world where adults have already surrendered. In the end, Aswang isn't just horror, it's a cautionary tale, a whisper from the past. It tells us that when we stop passing down the stories, when we stop teaching our children how to protect themselves, monsters don't die. They just wait. And when the last candle is blown out and the prayers are forgotten, they come back, wearing the face of someone you once loved. There's something poetic about how Aswang moves. It doesn't scream, it lurks, it watches. In true Peke Galiaga and Lore Reyes fashion, the direction isn't just about telling a story, it's about dragging you into a nightmare you can't quite laugh or look away from. This is a horror film, yes, but it's also strangely funny, bizarre, and offbeat. A genre clash that works. Not because it tries to be everything, but because the directors know exactly when to shift gears. There's something delightfully weird about Aswang. At one moment, it's conjuring genuine dread. A dark forest, a missing child, the camera creeping through leaves. And the next, booby traps. Villains slipping on garlic, a full-blown Home Alone showdown with murderers and a mythical creature. And somehow, it all works. Because Galiaga and Reyes weren't just making a horror film. They were making a Filipino horror experience. Part folklore, part family survival, part fever dream. The Aswang doesn't need to speak to be terrifying. She only says a couple of lines. A couple of lines delivered during the final act. And yet, we feel her presence long before that. Every time she appears, the score cuts through the silence like a blade. A high-pitched metallic shriek, a dissonant hum, whether she's a woman, a cat, an old lady, or a snake, the sound gives her away. She doesn't sneak up on us, she announces herself. Because in this film, silence doesn't mean safety, it means something's about to die. In the chaos of shape-shifting monsters and home invasions, one thing anchors the film. Manilyn Reyes' portrayal of fear. Her expressions weren't just reaction shots, they were emotional flashpoints. Wide eyes, trembling hands, gasping breaths. She gave the horror weight. And more importantly, she made us afraid for her. She didn't play a screaming victim. She played a girl trying to survive something unimaginable. And every scream felt earned. Cinematographer June Dalawis doesn't rely on expensive tricks. He relies on shadows, framing, and stillness. The woods aren't just a setting, they're a character. The Aswang's hut is not just creepy, it's actually a ritual space. We see Veron trapped under staircases, Dudoy caught in wide shots of isolation, and the Aswang blending into frames that feel too quiet for comfort. This isn't flashy horror, it's atmospheric horror, the kind that seeps into your bones and whispers, "Don't look away." Peke Galiaga and Lori Reyes were never afraid to take risks. And in Aswang, that fearlessness actually shows. They allowed the film to be unsettling and absurd, tender and terrifying. They understand that true horror doesn't come from the kill. It comes from the build-up, the waiting, the knowing, the moment before the scream. And maybe that's why Aswang still holds up. Because under all the shape-shifting and folklore and garlic, it's still a film about fear. What Aswang 1992 reminds us is this. Not all horror wears a monstrous face. Sometimes it comes as a scream in the woods, a knock on your door, or a shapeshifter who knows how to cry like your mother. This film doesn't just end with triumph, it ends with survival, and survival means scars. Wounds that folklore can't heal, and myths that continue to stalk the spaces between our towns, our forests, and sometimes even our families.